Hello, and welcome to episode 90 of the Pos-cast with Rabbi Shmuel Posner and myself, Seth Hellman. Rabbi, how are we doing today?
Today with Baruch Hashem fine. Whoops. We were Baruch Hashem fine till I moved. Holy moly.
Man.
Everything is so
outtake?
precarious in life.
So
Okay.
so when you wrote me, let me get this straight because this always happens to me. When you wrote me and said tomorrow, it was really yesterday for you, and it's really today. When I got it, I was thinking Thursday, but we're it's Wednesday, right? I get
So in
this
case you
happens
don't
to people that always want to schedule something to me.
so in case you didn't know, that's Ethan Hirsch who has invited himself on. No, we invited him on. I'm doing fine, thank you for asking, Seth, and welcome, Ethan. So first of all, we have a calendar point we have to make to all the people that are listening and watching, and that is that Friday is a fast day, Asar B'Teves. It's the only fast day on the Jewish calendar we actually fast on Friday. Yom Kippur we never let happen on Friday or on Sunday because we don't have like 2 days of Shabbos in a row. All other fast days, like if they would come out on Friday, we just push them back, or if they would come out on Shabbos, we push them back to either to Thursday or to Sunday. Like Tisha B'Av comes out on Shabbos, we make it on Sunday. If Purim is Saturday night, we fast of Esther on Thursday. Only Asar B'Teves is the only fast we can actually have on Friday. So there must be something special about this fast. Now, the reason we fast is because it commemorates the siege that was put around Yerushalayim before the destruction of the Beis Hamikdash. So, and the expression that the Navi uses be'etzem hayom hazeh, on this very day, the same way we find Yom Kippur, which interestingly also 10th of Teves is the fast this week, and Yom Kippur is the 10th day of Tishrei. But aside from this, that similarity, the fact that it says in the essence of the day. So what's so special about Asar B'Teves is that it's the start of the destruction, because when the Yerushalayim was put under siege, that was the moment the Jews sort of said, wow, we're in trouble. We got to get our act together and fix things up. Now, one of the things you should fix up if you want to have the rebuilding of the Beis Hamikdash and avoid the destruction of the Beis Hamikdash, of course, is Ahavat Yisrael, unity amongst Jewish people. Now, what greater way of being unified than having your city under siege? Because now you're actually stuck there. No one get in, no one get out. And which city are we talking about? We're talking Yerushalayim, not some random city. So that's like they should have said, hey, here we are in Yerushalayim, we're under siege. We should be doing tshuva and getting our... So that's the moment. It's like by the Mabul, it started raining, right? When it first started raining, they could have done tshuva then, and the rain would have become rain of blessing. So that's always the beginning of, the first step. When you get lost, You're not when you're 3 miles away, like, oh, where am I? You get lost the first moment you go in the wrong direction. And the same way with tshuva works the same way also. If you're 20 miles out of the way, when do you return? Not when you get back to your destination, or when you turn around. The moment you realize you made a mistake, then you're already on the right path. So this is the lesson we have to take from Asar B'Teves, is that we don't have to wait. We should recognize what we need to fix, and just that moment of recognition, that's already the beginning of the correction. Anyway, so the way the fast will work is it starts in the morning. Check your local calendar, what time it would be, and it would lead right into Shabbos, which is very unusual. That's why you don't want to fast on Friday, because then you come to Shabbos. You don't respect the Shabbos properly when you're ravenously hungry. But this fast works that way. And then Mincha would be the regular fast day Mincha with the Torah reading. So get to shul early for Mincha. And then Kabbalah Shabbat, and it's Kabbalah Shabbat, you break your fast by making Kiddush, which is a great way to end the fast always, just have a cup of wine. So that's just a note on the calendar. We also want to take note of what's going on in California, in Los Angeles, with the fires burning all over the place. And it's in the news, was a Chabad house that one of their structures caught fire, but they saved Sefer Torahs. So I just want to shout out to our friends in Los Angeles. I don't know exactly the geography there, but
It's Pacific Palisades. It's where Sydney's family lives. So
ah,
I've been to that Chabad house in Pacific Palisades before. We were there for was that Yom Kippur last year? Well, not this Yom Kippur that just happened, the Yom Kippur before that. And then but yeah, so I've been kind of in that community. There are a couple of different shuls in the area. I mean, there's obviously a very large Jewish population in Los Angeles in general, but yeah, not a fun situation to be in.
right.
There's a lot of a lot of businesses, like the local grocery stores have burned down. One of the gas stations in the area burned down. The high school burned down. The elementary school, I think, as well burned down, from what I was able to see. So yeah,
Not good.
hits close to home for sure.
Okay, friends in LA, we're thinking about you. Be fiery Jews, a lot of passion, and Hashem to take the fires away.
Man.
And now we turn to Ethan Hirsch, who's our guest. We promised you last week we're going to have guests. Here we have a guest coming live from
Jerusalem.
Yerushalayim. This is amazing. This is fantastic. This is unbelievable. So I want Ethan to tell us a little about how he and I got to know each other, and then how he ended up in Israel. I was commenting when he got on about the books behind him. Incredible, incredible. All those Sfarim. I think when I met him, I don't know how many, maybe 2 Jewish books, not much.
About 2.
All right, your turn.
My turn. So, meeting Rabbi Posner was a defining moment of my life. And everything that happened from that moment on, I am totally grateful to Rabbi Posner and all the work he does for people like me. I'm Jewish. I was born Jewish, and I had no idea what it was to be Jewish. I always wanted to engage in Jewish life, and I kept stumbling. And I had many false starts. Although my parents are first generation American, they were totally secular. There was no mezuzah on the door. There was no kiddush in the house. There was no candle lighting. Nothing. I began to attend. I was a Jewish Big Brother back in 1990. I began to attend a local Reform temple in Brookline because my little brother, who's now 49 and we're still really good friends, was 12. And as part of his obligation to be bar mitzvah, he had to go to Shabbat services. And it reignited this intense desire to discover my Jewish identity. And in that process, I met a young woman who was doing the same thing, but she was Israeli and she was far more advanced than me. And she kept beating on me, saying, you can't be going to this temple. You really need to see the real thing. So she said, let's go. I said, okay. So she and I walk off to this Chabad house. And let me just preface this by saying, at this time, I'm 36 years old. I've never been inside of an Orthodox synagogue. And I go there, and it's pouring. And we get to the Chabad house, and it turns out that the rabbi speaks before services begin. And in walks this guy with the black hat and the long coat and the beard. And the only time I've ever seen anybody like that was on the subway of New York City. And here I am in a room with him. And he starts talking about creation. and the order of creation and why things were created in this particular order. And I was absolutely spellbound. I had been taken by surprise about something I had never heard about. And after a bit, he said, "It's time to daven," an expression I'd never heard before. And we go into the shul, and it's got the thing down the middle. The women are on one side and the men are in another, something totally alien to me. And I see people standing and sitting, and some are mumbling, and I'm just having this experience. And Rabbi Posner's calling out the pages for beginners like me. And I'm loving it. It was just an amazing experience. And finally we get to the Torah reading, and he gives a clap on the bima, and he says, "You'll find today's parsha on page 1." So I really started at the beginning.
Mm. Wow. Wow, it's to me it's incredible that someone lives in Brookline and never walked into a shul. But I guess that's if it's not part of your life, you never do it.
It's so. I grew up in. I grew up in an overwhelmingly large community of Jews. I went to public school from kindergarten to sixth grade. I don't think there was a non-Jew in my class ever.
Where was
In,
this?
in Great Neck.
Great. Oh wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
And this was we were the children of the parents that fought in the Second World War. They were first generation Americans. They were successful. And religion, at least for me and the people that I knew, was not. I had never seen a pair of tefillin until you showed them to me. All those pictures everyone sees of you putting tefillin on people, I was one of them.
Before there
I
was
was one
pictures.
of them, and I still put them on every day.
Baruch Hashem.
Yeah, yeah. So my experience with Chabad House was it enabled me to learn. There were many classes that you offered. There were very warm and joyful Shabbat meals that I spent there. I pretty much went there for well over a year and a half every Shabbat. And it was different because most of the people are in their early 20s, late teens. I was 36 at the time, but still it was something that remains special to me. The how you introduced me to further into the world of traditional Judaism. We went to Crown Heights. I drove separately. But I met you there, and I have dollars from the Rebbe that I've passed on to my daughters, and they cherish them. And my daughter went and found the picture of me getting my dollar from the Rebbe.
Wow.
And then we saw he spoke one night. I remember when your hat got crushed. The time, do you remember that?
Yeah.
Yeah, he spoke, and afterwards he gave each of us some Kiddush wine from his cup, and we got to walk up to him and do that.
That was. Let me interrupt you. That was it was a springtime, summertime, and what happened was that the Rebbe came down from his room Shabbos afternoon. There was like 10 people in the shul just hanging out. There was nothing going on. And the Rebbe comes down with a towel over his shoulder and a thing of water, or I don't know if he carried the water, but he comes down and he says he wants to wash. And he walks up to the front of the shul and like people start scurrying and running around. And I remember Yosel Konofsky was with us, and Modi was with us that Shabbos, and we were, they were, I don't know, they were in 770 for some reason. Oh, they were staying 2 houses away from 770, so they were just hanging out on 770. I'm walking down Kingston Avenue, and somebody says, there's a Farbrengen or whatever. So everybody
Right.
comes running 770, is all the way in the front of the shul. It was not set up for anything. And the Rebbe like sat down on the bima. We do the Torah reading, but the bima was all the way in front of the shul. And they brought the Rebbe some challah, and he spoke a little bit. And then because he had washed and then benched afterwards, that's why he gave Kaishel bracha. He pours the wine from his cup. And yeah, my hat got crushed then because there was no order. Everything was chaotic. It's so funny you remember that. But
Yeah.
it's interesting because people will look at him and say, who's this kid? Who's this guy? But here he is. He's got dollars from the Rebbe. He was at that famous Farbrengen. I forget if it was Parsha Nasi, I think. I don't remember exactly. But he was at that Farbrengen. There are shluchim who have Chabad houses that are humongous. Like, this guy was at Farbrengen, I can't believe it. He got dollars from the Rebbe. Unbelievable. But
Yeah.
oh man.
It's true. But later, a few weeks after you have to watch Rabbi Posner with two eyes because he's very good at what he does. The first time, like, you know he just kind of like looks, doesn't say anything. The second time, maybe he asks you a question, see if you're a big donor or something. And and then and then all of a sudden you're sitting at home and you get a call from him, and he's calling you by your Hebrew name, and he gives you the what's going to be question. And so, you know you know how it is there's like a lot of young people who get influenced very quickly, but does it stick? I don't know. So I said to
Well,
him,
that's
I,
sad. So it's sick.
I remember this so clearly. I said to him, you don't even acknowledge me. The next time you meet me, you call me the man from the street. Even has an idea, and now you're calling me at home. And so I said, "What do you think? I'm going to come into Chabad house on Friday and leave on Monday and have a black hat?" And he said, "I only wish." And this is where he gets very sneaky, because he says, "Well, we really just want to hope that you leave with a little bit more than you came with." A little bit more. Now I work Kippah all the time. I put on tefillin every day. I have the whole Tanya behind me. But the things that really, really changed my, yeah, I mean, it changed my whole life. Um, I had an Orthodox wedding. Rabbi Posner signed the ketubah. I got the picture, and he had brown hair then, and only three, and just had his fourth child at the wedding. The child was there, Avram Yitzchak Hakatan, and see, right,
Oh man, I
and
haven't thought about that in decades.
yeah, yeah.
By the
So
way,
I
he's as
mean,
tall as you now.
we were
Oh,
fast friends. We were I remember, here's how he sneaks up on you. So he knew, I was really a viable candidate. He knew that. So he comes over every now and then, and he's in my house one day, and he opens up the refrigerator, and he
Oh, that
says,
was a mistake.
just no, 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 and he says, you don't have to keep kosher in the house, but you should buy kosher, and almost everything in your refrigerator is kosher.
Oh,
So he gave me the walkthrough, and right then and there, the non kosher stuff made their exit, and he had set me up to come back. He was waiting on it for me. And sure enough, I don't know how long it was. It wasn't really that long. And I said, I really want to kosher my house. I remember giving away dishes to friends, and he came in with the blowtorch. And
Wow.
right, and that was a process. But going back to, I was said briefly about getting married, and um, I have two daughters who, because of my relationship with Rabbi Posner, both of them, I think, had his wife in as their teacher in preschool. Both of them went to Jewish day school. They learned Rashi. They can read a siddur. They they learned how to read a Gemara. I took them to hundreds of shiurim on Shabbos afternoon while they were growing up. And my older daughter is actually right in my apartment tonight. She came for 2 weeks and is here 2 months. Every morning, this young woman gets up and goes to the kotel to daven shachrit. And because she works American hours, she comes back and then goes to work. And Rabbi Posner, I remember she was there in New England Hebrew Academy making matzah with the kids.
Right.
I took the picture. I showed you the picture when I showed you the picture of Bracha and Shalom, and I have all those things. The Jewish lineage in my family exists only because of my relationship that began with Rabbi Posner. None of my cousins married somebody Jewish.
Mm.
And Rabbi Posner, this was really important to me, and I didn't know why, and he helped me understand why. And he helped me in so many of the places that, as you begin the journey and you have no idea what the journey's, I had no desire to wind up as an Orthodox Jew or put on tefillin every day or eat only kosher food or keep Shabbat. These were not my goals, nor did he ever tell me they should be. He gave me the space and the friendship um, to explore and to witness. He knew early to introduce me to other families in the Chabad community, which was absolutely it was a game changer in that I wasn't in the Chabad house with a lot of students who sat at his table. I was seeing people who were fully integrated into their adult personal, professional lives with their family, who are living their lives as Shomer Shabbat Jews. And it just opened up a window that gave me a much greater understanding of how to live that integrated life um, that I just didn't understand at that time.
Yeah. It's amazing. I don't know what to say, but I think don't understand. You're saying that you had no idea what it was and that you weren't expecting anything, but really, what the Rebbe always taught us, and we learned in Tanya, is that every Jew has a neshama, and that godly soul in them is yearning to make that connection to Hashem through all the Torah and mitzvahs. So when somebody opens themselves up, allows it to come in, and you were open to it, obviously you're open to it. So then it was just there, like the well of water is there. If you dip your cup into it, you drink. So what Chabad House does and what Chabad Shluchim do is just open up the door and say, here it is. Here's all the Torah. Here's all the mitzvahs. Come for Shabbos. Come for this. Come for that. And it should work on its own. Of course, you have to teach. You have to fill a person's mind with knowledge of what Judaism is, so they can get into it. But it's more the recipient than the one who's giving it to them. That's what I'm saying. I think it's the credit goes to the person who grew up 36 years and didn't know what Shabbos was or kosher, and then makes that commitment. That's the amazing. So yeah, I remember that meeting like a year after you came, and And you said what you said before. You said, I don't want to be the guy with the black hat. And I told you, and I told him the truth. Because the truth is, I love everybody. See, Seth is wearing a black hat. See, so I told you that this would be my wish and my desire would be that everybody would become a fervent chassid of the Rebbe.
That's
And I
what he
don't make a
said.
secret out. I don't make a secret out of that. I'm not. It's not like bait and switch. This is the
You
truth.
did say that.
But it'll be up to you to make those decisions, make those choices, and then like I don't know how many years later, a year or two later, you walk in with a black hat and say, here I am. So yeah, that's the gig. We're not. Yeah. So yeah, it's amazing.
It
It's
is.
amazing for me to see a person like you. It's like overwhelming. It's like beyond anything you could imagine to be able to be able to have this privilege to be able to affect somebody, to be there for somebody, to help somebody in your life, to now have daughters that are Shomer Shabbat, and all the hundreds and thousands of mitzvahs. There was a shliach in Glasgow, and we spoke about the early shluchim. Everybody takes Chabad for granted. Oh, this is what they do. This they do it. Not to granted they don't. They understand the given thing, but they assume that that's what it is. When it first started, the shluchim didn't. It was difficult. It was very hard. You're living in back 50, 60, 70 years ago when the communication wasn't what it is like today, and availability of kosher products in different places, all this kind of stuff. And so these shluchim would write letters to the Rebbe asking him questions and things, and they had a lot, to some degree, they had some self-doubt. Am I the right person? Am I doing enough? This and that. And the Rebbe had to constantly encourage them. I don't know if I told this story about my aunt. I'm not going to get the whole thing now, but she was sent to Italy, and something happened. I'm not going to tell the whole story, but she wrote to the Rebbe and said, maybe I'm not the right person. And so the Rebbe wrote back to her a whole beautiful letter, and one of the lines he says to her, you're implying that perhaps you don't trust the person that sent you. I don't think that's what you mean to say. In other words, the Rebbe is saying to her, you're a Lubavitcher woman. You grew up and your parents are like sitting up to the kazoo. And you're saying that maybe I'm not the right person. You're doubting me who sent you. What the Rebbe is doing at that point is he's saying to every shliach, wherever you are, I sent you. You can't be a Lubavitcher chassid and say, I shouldn't be here. I'm the one that sent you there. And not only that, but the Rebbe then says, I'm with you. When you tell this to shliach, the Rebbe said, you're going far away. I'm going to be with you. I mean, it was such a connection and such a reinforcement that when we read this, that's what we live on. That's how all the shluchim around the world are able to do this, and keep that in mind, that this is what it's meant to be. And the Rebbe, I was watching. I love watching Rebbe videos, but there was this couple came to the Rebbe for dollars, and they said to the Rebbe, this is a year ago we came to you for a blessing for a child. We haven't had children for 11 years. We've been married, and you gave us a blessing, and here this is your child. And the Rebbe says, it's not my child, it's David's child. It's Hashem's child. So that's and the Rebbe said last week to Haytevis, so the Rebbe said, bring your notes, I'm going to bring them to the oil, and write your note to Hashem. It'll go through my father-in-law. It'll go through the Rebbe. So it's not how the Rebbe looks at it. Like it's going through me, but it's not about me. It's about Hashem. And that's every Jew has that. And if you just able, if a person's open to it, you serve it to them like, oh wow, this is great. This is fantastic. So that's where we're at. And I'm not going to tell you a story, but you eventually moved to the other part of town, which you mentioned the other families, because it wasn't sustainable to have you in the Chabad house forever. As you're getting older, the typical kid coming to Chabad house is not getting older. It's still 18 to 21. You're 36, 37, 18 to 21, 38, 39, 40, and they're remaining the same age.
I'm now Shivim.
And then Shivim, wow, amazing.
I know.
So
but
yeah,
you were
move
30 then. You were 30.
Yeah, I guess I was.
I refuse to believe that the rabbi's been anything other than the age that he currently is for his entire life.
No.
So talk to us about your move to Israel. This came to me as a
Okay. So I unlike my daughters, I had never been to Israel until I was 60. I do everything slowly. And so when I came to Israel, unless you spend a year in Israel and you get to see it, you're more like in a hotel setting, or and you don't really see life in the city as being a member of that community. But yet I felt it was very special. I knew the ground was holy. I knew I was in a deeply holy place. Everywhere I went, there were Jews, and they were speaking Hebrew, and they were wearing kippot. And I was saying, this is really amazing. And I never really thought that I could move here because I had a million reasons why I couldn't. And, there are chapters in your life. Seth, you were talking recently about this chapter that you're in now. It's like your after college chapter. But being 70, I'm in the last chapter. Hopefully it's a long chapter.
Amen.
But you have to realize where you are, and 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 use that time constructively and enjoy it and do creative things with it. And I knew that it was time for me to leave Brookline. You know the dynamics were no longer a good fit for myself, and I was thinking, gee, where am I going to live? In New York? I don't want to go to New York, and then big Florida, Cleveland. None of them felt right, and I have a very, very dear friend, who I've known almost as long as I know Rabbi Posner, Rabbi Rosenblatt, and he said, "Why don't you move to Israel?" And it's like talking to Rabbi Posner. If he makes a suggestion, it's well thought. He knows who the person is. He knows the challenges the person has, but he believes that person can move through those challenges to achieve the goal. That's the thing that Rabbi Posner brought to my life, is that I trusted him and knew that when those suggestions he was making them, he felt they were real, and I never challenged him. Same when my friend suggested I move to Israel, rather than put it off. Each day I did something. And it took a year, and I realized that I wanted to live in Israel. I wanted to live my life as a Jew. And actually, before moving here, I visited for about a month, and I stayed in an Airbnb. And I saw Jerusalem from a much different perspective, because I was in the neighborhoods. I wasn't with the tourists. And I knew even with greater certainty that this is where I wanted to live my life.
Which aspects of being in the community?
Everywhere you go, there's a minion. There's like 3, 4 of them right on my street within 2 minutes walking. I can go to Mincha Ma'ariv every day, and there's a full minion. There's 30 people right there, and there's another one in the building next door. And if I go across the street and around the corner, there's another minion. They're everywhere. And you look down the street, and there's a guy who's delivering your mail with long pants and a beard. And I mean, people told me that during COVID, and they had their minyanim outside, if there were civil servants like the garbage man or the mailman, and they had reached Kedusha, they would stop the truck and go right into the minyan and join.
That's
in that part. It's true. I've had more than one person tell me that. So when you see life in Jerusalem, you go in the store, you don't have to really look at whether the food is kosher or not. I mean, my daughter is very picky, but thank you very much. And um, and I find that I'm in a very holy place. It's being Jewish in Israel is far far different than being Jewish in America. I mean, you're breathing a religious life. Everything revolves around that. You go into shul, they don't have trouble finding a minion. They have more minions than you can, imagine. I mean, on every block, there's multiple. It's people are very comfortable in a space of prayer and learning and Torah. That's it exists. You go in the supermarket and they have a small shul. If you happen, I'm not kidding. I've seen it in several of them. They have a small shul there for Mincha Ma'ariv.
right. So one second, do you speak Hebrew?
I go to Ulpan. It's the government pays for you to take Ulpan. I'm in Ulpan 3 days a week, 4.5 hours a day, and
Oh,
then I practice like at least 2 hours after that, and then I don't have it Thursday, Friday, Shabbat, or Sunday. So I then continue to practice because why not speak Hebrew? 3-year-olds speak Hebrew. Ima. How come I can't speak Hebrew? So, but many of the services, and this is, people often say it's very difficult to be here. And I know you want to know about this. It's difficult wherever you are. You get on the phone, the person doesn't speak English, they don't understand what you want, even if they do speak English. Same happens here. And if you're patient, like I'm older, so I have doctors. So in order for me to get the new doctors and get all my prescriptions, I've been working on trying to get this one doctor for about 6 weeks. I got it today. But you have to,
be
you know,
patient.
yeah, you have to but one of the things is you need to speak Hebrew in order to self-manage better.
Hmm.
Um, because all the reminders that they sent that come up, the voicemails are all in Hebrew. And when you have to call someplace and they say, "Oh, press 3 to get it in English." And that's the only English you hear because once you get into that menu, it's back in Hebrew again. So, so it's that part is it just makes me laugh. But a lot of people, if if you just go with that flow, I don't. I've had great days every day I've been here. I haven't, I have never regretted it. I've not struggled with
What neighborhood do you live in?
I live in Jerusalem, next to Baka and Talpiot. I live in Makor Chaim. I live about 10-minute walk from Rabbi Shapiro, my good friend. You know
Rabbi
him.
Shapiro?
Yes,
Oh,
yes.
wow. Give my
And
regards.
yeah, I'll tell him you say hi. And so I don't
So,
know.
so you have friends there? You have a community?
So that's fine. What I did was I chose where I live by finding a shul first. I felt when there were people my age, there was a rabbi that I liked when he spoke. Um, and then I chose that as my starting point. And so now I'm starting to explore. I've only been here since the last week of August. So, yeah, I know. People are surprised that I came alone. And they say how, because they all found it hard. But, uh, you know, I like it. I like it. The challenges that I have are just the same kinds of challenges you have anywhere else you
Do,
go.
do you live in an apartment building?
Yes,
So you know your neighbors?
some of them,
Do
like
they
my
invite you
next.
for Shabbos?
I have been invited for Shabbos. I'm always invited for Shabbos if I want, because they have a welcoming committee at the synagogue.
Uh-huh. What kind of shul
And
is it?
huh?
What kind of shul is it?
Um, it's an interesting shul. It's the many there's a good split of native Israelis and Americans that have moved there over time. But the rabbi speaks in Hebrew when he gives his shir, but he does have a chazoret at the end where he then repeats it in English for the people, but
Wow,
that didn't get it. But most of the people speak Hebrew, and they actually want it to be that way. They want it to remain that way.
right.
Um,
You have a place in the shul? You have your own place?
I have an area. The first, you know how this is. You come into the shul. Is it okay if I sit here? Is it okay if I sit here? Afshar, and so they say, oh, there's no makam here. There's no makam here. You can sit where you want. So you sit down, and the same guy comes up to you. I've been sitting in the seat for 40 years. Shabbos. So, so I have an area. So
A zone. It's
a
called
zone.
zone seating, you know?
So,
Like
it's
in
like,
basketball, zone defense.
yeah, exactly.
It's zone seating.
It's like when you have multiple kids, you can't do one on one. You got to put them in a zone. And
Zone seating in the shul.
I know it's so yeah. So then I was at a different minyan this Shabbat. It's outside. It's actually in a Chabad school. They had a rooster there. There's a lot of roosters in Jerusalem, and you're diving. This thing's crowing, and you're going, "Oh my gosh!" It's like right here at the beginning of the center, and
Right? Bracha for the rooster.
right, exactly. You showed me that, and they were very warm and friendly. That everyone came up to me and shook my hand. They didn't tell me that they've been sitting there. They had a baby naming, they had a bat mitzvah. These are all very from shuls, and but I found that the level of knowledge is very high. Like one gentleman had just finished his fifth time through Shas, and well, he's old, so,
It's still out learning.
and
That's good one the third time or second
but
time.
so what happens is he gives a shear, and I just sit in it to oftentimes, because it makes me work harder to listen in Hebrew, and I understand, and I can see how he uses the language, and I hear it, and I follow along the source sheets, and more I
Yeah,
understand.
yeah, yeah,
You
yeah.
pick up the cadence, the sound, the phrasing, but I sit there, and these men and women just grill him sometimes in Hebrew with very informed opinions. They're not light. And so this is what I mean about, you know, it's very different being Jewish in Israel than here, because there's so many people that learn. There's so many people whose faith is very, very deep
Mm,
and extends throughout their lives, and everything that they do. Everything happens according to a Jewish calendar. Some places don't even open on Friday. Everything shuts down by noon, except for a few stores that are like at 2. Shabbos is around 4:30, depending, and the everything comes back like Sunday.
right.
And your cycle of everything around you, where you're Jewish in America, your cycle is your own, right? In Israel, the calendar, the cycle, you're fully integrated into a Jewish way of life.
What do you do? Oh, I mean, you do opine like that's a big chunk of the day. I like what? How do you see yourself being occupied?
Okay, so because it's a there's a thing called ageism, and it's even more profound in Israel that over 35 is considered old. So, you have to recognize these things, and you have to. I can't try to do something that that's not going to work for my age. I have to find things that enable me to be competitive in an arena where that's not as necessary an element. So I look at, I have a long history. I have a degree in accounting, then I went into software, then I went to software development, accounting consulting. So I'm looking at taking a slice of that and just like being a bookkeeper and being able to do that independently, work remotely, learn, and go to Opon, because you can go to Opon a few years to. It's a beautiful language. My friend refers to Hebrew as the Italian of the Middle East. It has such a wonderful sound and flow. When you hear it all the time and you hear it spoken by native speakers, it's very special.
Mm.
It's Lashon Kodesh, as you said.
Right. But you can
It's
be authentic. So you can be a bookkeeper for whom? Not for American.
You could do pretty much anything because you can work
So
remotely. You can work remotely. They don't need you all 8 hours.
right,
And so right now I'm just feeling it out. I'm networking from people that I've met in shul. But my
mm,
big thing is to get as much Hebrew,
right,
you know,
right. That'll
um,
make things more efficient and just living and
right, so I can communicate with and say mazah.
yeah. You also have to eventually you have to give back to the community as well. You got to be involved in like helping other people because you have all
Absolutely.
this experience. You can be like you can be a bookkeeper of some yeshiva and not charge them an arm and a
That's
leg.
it's true, but I know a bunch of the young people and actually adults that are different because I also have that degree in special education, and I
Right.
befriend them. I
Excellent.
was I
Excellent.
was in a
I just think
friend's.
I think it's very important that when we talk to you in a year from now, you say this is what I've accomplished here. I mean, you have so much personal stuff that you just there a couple of months. I'm not trying to you know.
No, no, no. You're right. You're
But
right.
to me, it's incredible that a person picks himself up and moves to Eretz Yisrael, like you say, going alone and all this kind of stuff. That's when I saw your bookcase. I'm like, oh my goodness, because I'm picturing like you're living in a place somewhere, a couple of boxes on the floor,
I
you
got
know.
the boxes.
You got the
Just
box. Don't
I'm
show me
not
the
showing
box.
them
There you go. This is perfect. This is perfect to see. I got old this farmer in the bookshelves, and you're going
in
to
the
show
Tanya. Yeah,
at the Tanya.
in the Tanya. Yeah.
He asked me out of Tanya. Boom! You knew exactly where it was.
Of
But
course.
the Rebbe was speaking. Well, he spoke about Hey Tavis about Sfarim, but he said you should buy beautiful books, but they should end up being torn and used. That's a good book is a beautiful new book. A better book is a torn used book.
You
Get
should
that?
see my you should see my sitter.
That's it. That's a beautiful sitter. The Rebbe sitter was a pile of pages until they get bound because it was used so much. Then they finally bound it, but it was just like had a rubber band to keep it together even. So now tell me one more thing. Oh, this is a long time we've been talking. Tell me about the situation that's going like for a few minutes. Talk about the situation with the war and the whole thing, and just how like from your perspective, like
All right. So in the synagogue that I go to, five of the men are saying Kaddish for their sons.
Mm.
Every one of the families is affected because their children or their grandchildren have all been serving and they keep getting called back. And I look and I look at the world and nobody supports Israel. They talk about the Palestinians, but they are holding our family. They are holding our hostages. I know this is a public thing, but everything that's happening to the Palestinians is because their leaders decided that that's what they wanted to do. And they knew that, and they're smart enough to know that that would be the outcome. And that's pretty much the feeling that you you see here. That, I mean, it's very real everywhere you go. Every building, every fence has a picture of the hostages on them. In this the synagogue that I davened at this past Shabbat, that Hirsch, Poland, that's where his parents daven.
Mm,
It's very real in this, it being in Israel. And then there's the political issues that like many other countries, the political agenda is troubling. It's not everyone agrees,
right.
and we the moment you arrive, you're an Israeli citizen. The moment you step off the plane, if you go through Nefesh B'Nefesh, you're an Israeli, and they say take out your phone, and then they download with you this application. It's on your phone, and when that thing buzzes, and it's a loud buzz, you have 90 seconds to make it to your safe room. Now, I've had it go off a few times, not thank God recently in the past month or so, but we one of my bedrooms is a safe room. It has the steel window that shuts quickly, the extra steel door. Um, that it's the bomb shelter, and that's part of life. That is the part of life that you go into shul, and there are Seth, there are many young men your age walking around with machine guns with their taluses on. Men, young men with pistols in their belt, a grown men, older men who carrying weapons. Wherever you go, there are Israelis not in uniform, because they're off for Shabbat or something, but who are who are on active duty, and some of them in uniform, women as well, carrying machine guns.
That's a bit of a change from being in America.
It is. Well, at least you see them.
Yeah. Okay. Wow. This is riveting, riveting, amazing. I just have so much respect for you for like picking yourself up and going to Eretz Yisrael, because you're right. What would you do here getting old? I'm getting older, living here. If you don't have any real reason to be here, it's just so much more amazing to be there. And like I said before, you know, just being there is good for you. It's good for other people too. It's good for other Jews to see you. Every other Jew that's there supports the other Jews that are there. So much more when you're actively doing something, like you're helping people that you can because of your unique profession, your capabilities. This is just an amazing, amazing thing.
I feel so fortunate. I feel so fortunate to have this opportunity in my life. I never dreamed that I could do that. And it's like, how I want to show you. Come.
Hi.
So
Hi.
Rabbi Posner
Hi.
knows me before I have children. She knows you since you're like 3 or 4. Yep,
Wow.
yep,
Amazing.
yep,
Amazing. Miracles. These are miracles.
yep. So I mean, we go back far.
Yeah. Okay, Seth, wrap it up.
Wrap it up,
All
Seth.
I can say is I think I can only wait till Mashiach comes, and we'll all be there. We're all going to be there, and we know we can find Avram Yitzchak Hagala's apartment. We'll just walk in and say we're here, and we'll
You
go to the
guys,
safe room and have a big
you guys,
celebration.
you can stay in the bomb shelter. So it has a good bed.
Yeah, no problem.
It's good.
All right.
And with that, thank you so much for listening to episode 90 of the Pos-cast. Rabbi Shmuel Posner. Thank you for sticking with us if you stuck through this long episode. I think this is the longest episode we've ever done, but definitely a good listen, particularly if you got all the way to the end. So thank you for listening, and we'll see you next week.
Thank you.